and this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And let me show you how I did this, just in case there's any artist that wants to know how an artist works, or perhaps there's a non-artist out there who wants to know how some artists work. So I would do my in too much detail. Then I would turn on my light table and turn the page over. Now you have to pretend that the other side point pencil, and not trace slavishly, but make edits, make changes. And then from that, I'll turn off the light now. Then from that, I did a third sketch, and then a fourth sketch, and finally, this was the final sketch of my F series. I did the same thing, as I said, 7 different times. This was the D series, sketch 1, sketch 2, sketch 3. I don't expect you to see these carefully. I just want you to get the idea. Sketch 4, and then finally sketch 5. And then, as I predicted, my client came back and said, okay, I like the girl from D and the boy from F. So I put together this sketch. And my client approved of this. Of course, it's flopped. It's actually going to be going the other way. And I blew it up on my printer and printed it off. And, oh, let me see. Which one should I show you? Okay, so I did this sketch. My client didn't quite approve of it. There were a few changes he wanted to make. So I made a few changes to the woman's torso, mainly, and her leg a little bit. And so this was my final rough sketch. And I made my own carbon paper by rubbing charcoal. You know this trick, don't you? Rubbing charcoal on the back, rubbing it with tissue, with Kleenex, which is a clayboard, which I'll show you in just a minute, and traced it all with a... All right, so then after that, I had a fine pencil rendering on my clayboard. And as you can see, I've already done a whole bunch of work on it, but I am not by any means finished with this. And this is what I want you to be able to see with me here.
Carbon paper.
All right, there we go. Now let me turn down this volume.
You know this trick, don't you?
There we go. Now I can see your chats. That'll be wonderful. So Scratchboard. This is, the back is, it's masonite, made by the company called Clayboard. I'm kidding. It's called Clayboard, and it's wonderful stuff with a brush. This brush right here, dipped in India ink. But I've also done some using good old-fashioned rapidograph pens. And then after putting down the ink, we scratch off the ink by scratching into the ink with one of these scratcher devices. All right, now one of the things I've worked on it for several hours already. As you can clearly see, there's a lot of work there spread out over 2 or 3 there. I think that might be finished. Also, his left leg here might be finished, but there are a lot finished with that. And I'm sort of scratching my head trying to figure out to give the impression that she's wearing a translucent dress. We can see the silhouette of her legs, then get the flowing nature of the skirt or dress. Well, one of the parts I want to illustrate, now I'll go ahead and begin this right now, is why this, or how this forgiving. That's not 100% forgiving, but largely. So for instance, I was working on her top. I'll say top, so that YouTube doesn't knock me off for using any more graphic. I don't like the way this turned out, so I did it and then went, I don't think so. I'm trying to make a point, and I'm not. So look, I'm painting over the whole thing, and after that dries, I'm going to scratch it, inked over it, because I did it one time and I didn't like it. So watch me while I scratch through this again. I'm thinking exactly how I want to do it. The great and amazing part of this Scratchboard or clayboard medium, it's actually clayboard, is that I can scratch through it again and I get almost a perfect white scratch, even though I've already scratched through this surface 1 or 2 times. I don't know, I've lost track at this point. So it's not quite a perfect virgin white line, if you will, but it is very, very close, and it is good enough for this illustration. That is to say, the imperfections that I can see wearing my invisible when this illustration is reduced at the correct or printable size. So that's one of the great things about Scratchboard. You can change your mind. I have here a saw. Clean the debris, the dust, the sawdust off the illustration. By the way, I have a small stack of samples that I'm looking at here. This is work done by Summers, and this is some of his work. This is a blow up of the old German guy. I'll think of his name in a second. This is more Mark Summers work. Again, I'm just looking at it as samples, more Mark Summers, and that's a sketch that I did for my client. And this is a AI, artificial intelligence, rendering exactly what style I want to use in this illustration. And the style I'm using could be called an etching, but it's actually faux etching. That is a very sharp steel point on a copper plate or a zinc plate. So this is fake etching, and again, much more forgiving. And it's also a little bit like woodcut, a woodcut. Although also much. That's my first pass. Then I'm going to come in here and start doing basically cross-hatching. You know that term, don't you? Basically cross-hatching, going the other way. And of course, I'm thinking, as I do this, I'm thinking about the anatomy, the musculature underneath this fabric. Okay, let's stop there. Let's look at that. That's not bad. Let me put a little bit more bit of fabric bunched up near his knee here. Okay, and then again, while I'm demonstrating different techniques, back to the brush, I can insinuate some folds in the fabric. That may be done. I will look at it more carefully after I'm finished this broadcast. Let's go up to this woman up here where I just erased what I had done earlier. And this time I'm going to use a simpler cross-hatching technique. Again, when I tried to follow the contour of her body, that is not the point of this illustration, if you know what I mean. Be distracting, shall we say. So I'm just using straight line cross hatching. See if I can get the right layers. That's a little bit better. I'm still not sure that it's exactly what I want, but let me do a little bit more. And if I need to, see, you've already discovered that I can come in here and do it again a third time if I need to. Which way should the next layer go? I guess this way. I have a strong sense that once I get the shading the way I want it on this woman's, I am going to some texture in the fabric itself. I don't know that I'll demonstrate me doing that. So you may have to wait and look at the finished illustration to see if in fact I do that. But I'm quite sure that I will. In other words, I don't want this fabric to be smooth the way you see it right now. Okay, now up here in her face, and by the way, her face is at this. It's more fine point. One of the beauties about the world we live in nowadays as an illustrator is that when I'm finished scanning it in Photoshop, importing it to Photoshop, and editing the illustration in Photoshop, and I'll make perfections or corrections on her face. See, on Photoshop, I can blow her face up to, say, worked on her eyes a fair amount, and that's what you see there is about as good. I still have the bottom portion of her outfit, so I think I'll just go ahead and do this outfit. Well, I'm going to let you go shortly. Hello, some person. Thank you for chatting. So this really is a fun medium. Of course, any medium that entails both addition and subtraction is a much more forgiving medium than a medium that only allows for marble sculpture. I always think of those amazing medieval blow, and the Madonna's finger goes flying across the room. I wonder how many sculptors committed suicide. Anyway, there are mediums. Watercolor is somewhat unforgiving. You can erase, but not nearly like you can in acrylics. One of the ultimate plus and minus mediums. Hey, while I'm talking, let me work on this man's shoe. Is clay, like modeling clay, right? Which most, if or all, bronze statues are done using modeling clay. And the great part about modeling clay is you can whack a piece off. Play-Doh, for those of you who've never done any sculpture as an adult. Well, you remember what Play-Doh was like. You could take a piece off and you could take a piece on and off and on as many times as you like. So any medium that entails both addition and subtraction, by definition, is going to be a much more forgiving and easier medium than one that only allows one or the other. So this is one of the mediums that is pretty for again, and then unerase, if you'll let me use that terminology. See, image is skipping again. Thank you for letting me know that. I am doing quite a bit to try to alleviate that. I have recently procured some new equipment, then I had to experiment with it, etc. But so I'm still not there yet. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. A fairly simple cross-hatching technique. I'll go back and decide later. But hey, before I go, let me, ooh, it is skipping. Sorry about that. Here's one of the things I'm planning to do with her clothing. This doesn't look all that great right at the moment. So bear with me. Right now I'm just doing a bunch to look like jewels. Rhinestone cowboy. Right, doesn't. Well, bear with me. While I'm waiting for that to dry, because I can't do anything till those dots that I've just put on, I can't do anything till they dry. I'll let you think with me. I want her dress to be darker. See, now I do like the concept of the man being dark and the woman being light. So I don't want her as a little too light. And you know what? Here, right while you're watching, I'm going to go ahead and paint over this. I don't like what I just did. So what I'm modeling again for you here, whether I want to or not, is the forgiveness of the medium. To have a better idea how to proceed, how to achieve the. I have to make it by hook or by crook. Okay, while I'm waiting, again, I'm waiting for the dots on. How about that? His scabbard. Let's see if these spots are dry. I think they are. Okay, let's go back up here, and I'll wrap up this little broadcast with when I finish this. So as you can see, I'm very much in process. Glad you can learn something every day. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to these little dark marks that I made just a few minutes ago. Sir. Something like that, a bit of sparkle. Again, if I don't like it, I will do it over again. Again, the product that I'm working on is called Clay. How many times can you go over it? How many times can you scratch off and put the ink back on and then take the ink back off before you run out of clay, before you get through, all the way through to the masonite underneath? And my answer is I have no idea. Thankfully, it has never happened to me. I've never through the clay, so I hope that doesn't ever happen, but of course if it does, I'll have to figure out. All right, so there's a little bit. I don't want it to look like a leopard print. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do a few more. Okay, hang on. Since it's through these, of course, they're too small. Make them and sell them. These pens used to be the workhorse. Make straight lines, not with a computer, but with a pen. Is that hard to imagine? I spent many years of my life, purchased probably 50 years ago. What was that? Oh yeah, before 1975. All right. Tell you what, while you're right there watching, I want to diminish a little bit of the shading in her eye socket there.